friends. Happy July 2nd. July 2nd, 9 o'clock Central. For you first time watchers, hey, make sure you say hello in the comments. What are you doing today? What are you working on? Where are you watching from? And why haven't you subscribed on YouTube yet, right? That's always the big question. Why haven't you subscribed on YouTube yet? I don't know. I mean, maybe it was an oversight. Maybe you forgot. Maybe you are subscribed to 1,000 other channels and you just haven't subscribed to mine. Go fix that. Hey, it's Patrick Allmond coming to you live from Oklahoma City and Stop Doing Nothing Media. And man, I'm really feeling good this week. Not going to say the week's been 100% great, but I'm really feeling good. And I took some time this morning to think about some of the things I do that I've learned, over a while. And I'd love to hear yours also, but just kind of some life philosophies that have really been on my mind recently that when I remember them, I write them down because, we have a lot of fleeting passing thoughts in the world. And sometimes it's just good to write them down. So I was working on a list and I thought, hey, I would love to share this with my friends. So if you're watching, please make sure you watch for a while. I'm going to kind of cover these. I've got like five or six. I don't know if I'll make it through all of them in the next 30 minutes or so. But yeah, they're just some things that I've learned. I'm on the very far side of 20, um, and oh me, I'm sorry, Rich. Thanks, sir. Let's see if we can turn up the mic volume here. I get actually, you know what? I just realized there's an overhead fan on. It may be getting some noise canceling in there. Just a second, Rich. I appreciate you. I am a sweater, and so oftentimes in the office I will have a fan on, and the fan will do weird things with like the noise canceling of the mic. So Rich, let me know if it's better now. And I also turned up the gain on the volume a little bit for you, sir. So I apologize for that, but thanks for calling me out. See, Rich is a good guy. Rich is call people's out on their own bullshit. Not that that's going to be one of my points. It may be one of my points. Who knows? I don't know. Whenever there's a camera and a microphone on, I have no idea what I'm going to say next. I really don't. I hope your week is going well. Rich, if I'm not mistaken, Rich, you're down in Texas. Is that correct? Yeah, I just booked a trip down there. Not a trip. I'm going down to Dallas. JP, goodness gracious, JP is the man. I appreciate you, JP. Man, we've known each other a long time. I don't think we've ever met in person, but I've been following your stuff forever. Thank you, Rich. It's good to know. Anyway, as I was saying, I'm going down to I just booked a hotel room down in Dallas. I'm going down to Billy Cox's event. Um, Colorado. Okay, I'm sorry, Rich. For some reason, I thought it was Texas. Um, I'm going to a Billy Cox event at the end of July, and I just booked a room for it. A really good friend of mine, Thomas Keenan from Step It Up Academy, is a speaker, and he invited me to this event down there. So I'm driving down there, whatever that Friday is, the 26th, the 27th. I don't know. Wait, no, Friday, Thursday. I'm driving down Thursday. It's a Friday and Saturday event. So I'm going to drive down Friday morning. I got this right. From Oklahoma City, 3 hours down to Texas. The event starts at noon on Friday. So I think I'm going to head out of here pretty quickly, like, 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm up at that time anyway, so might as well get in the car and head down to Dallas, right? Get down there and go to this Billy Cox event, and that's half of Friday. And half of Friday, and then all of Saturday, and then head back. Um, and I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't done any self improvement in a while. And when Thomas, if you're watching, Thomas, when Thomas invited me to it, my first mindset was one of scarcity of my own time and not remembering that I need to eat my own dog food. So really, when he first invited me, my mind was on, I've got so much to do with building out our Playmakers platform and helping clients. And I don't have time to take off and go for 2 or 3 days to Dallas. Okay, I'm already going to be down there a couple times this year. I'm putting my own event on. If anyone's ever interested, I'm putting my own event on in Dallas, October 12th. And so I was having this mindset, and something happened. I really can't remember what it was, but something happened that reminded me that I've got to take time for myself and improve myself. And hold on just a second. Oh, Gotta take care of the tech. Gotta take care of the tech. But yeah, so I'm headed down there, and I don't know why, Rich. I thought you were down there, but I apologize, sir. But it's good to have you on, JP. I can't remember where you are. For some reason, I think you are. I think you are west of Oklahoma, in the west part of the country, if I'm not mistaken, right? But so yeah, I'm going down this cool Billy Cox event to St. Youth. Before Thomas introduced me to him, I had no idea who Billy Cox was. If there's any Billy Cox fans, uh, chime in the comments what you think about him. I'm just genuinely interested. I am also there's several speakers there, and goodness gracious, what's the one big name that's going to be there? Les Brown is going to be a speaker there, and I've met Les. I think I've met Les once or twice at National Speakers Association events, but he is one of the big speakers down there in 1 hour east of Orlando Airport. Yeah, man, everyone's been down. Everyone's down in Orlando Airport. Um, Everyone's been to Orlando Airport. You know, if you're going to go to Florida, you've been to Orlando Airport at least once for taking the kids, once or twice or three times for taking the kids to Disney, and that place is obviously like one of the conference, um, one of the conference centrals in the U.S. So, or everyone knows Orlando Airport, right? So, JP, cool. That's a good place because you're in like I said, Event Central right there. So before we get into my rules of life, I want to hear some good news. So for Rich and JP and anybody else that's watching, please drop at least one good thing that's happened to you so far this week. We are on the beginning of Wednesday, so we've had 2 days, 3 days if you're a Sunday worker. Um, and we've all had good and bad things happen, and we have to recover from them. The one, and using the word bad is kind of rough. We're really hard on ourselves when we use the word bad. Challenging things, or sometimes when we're hoping for something big and things didn't go our way. Let's use that word instead of bad, okay? Here's mine, and then we'll go on to the good news. I had a lead. I had what I would call an ideal lead. Hey, Abrahar, thank you. Abrar, I don't know how to say your name. Please charge it to my head. I really apologize that my lack of enunciation skills or pronunciation skills. So let me see where are all my windows at. There we go. Show all windows. There we go. Where are we? Come on, computer. Don't fail me now. Anyways, so something that happened that really didn't go my way and I wasn't really happy about it is I had a business lead, an aviation business lead. So I was going to get to work with guys that lease out jets, which would have been like a dream client. Okay. I'm a pilot, and anything that has wings or props or turbines or wheels or wings, I absolutely love. I cannot go outside and hear something fly overhead and not stop and take a picture of it or look it up on Flight Radar 24 to see what it is, okay? And it's been this way since I was a kid. You know, when you were a kid and you discovered something and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to be all up in this for the rest of my life." And for me that was airplanes. And fast forward to when I went into started my business in the late 90s, and I was able to have enough money to finally get my pilot's license. And that one's my pride and joy. So I had a lead come in last week or the week before where I was going to be able to work with a jet leasing company. And then come to find out that a good part of their business, I'm not sure they're exactly based there, but a good part of their business happens out of Van Nuys Airport. And for those of you familiar with SoCal, Southern California, Van Nuys Airport is obviously Southern California over in the valley, and it's next to a city called North Hollywood. And I spent a good part of my youth in North Hollywood. So, you know, I was in and out of Van Nuys. I've actually piloted a plane out of Van Nuys Airport. I was out there on a business trip once, and I rented a plane in Van Nuys Airport, and we flew up the coast with a buddy. We flew up the coast of Santa Barbara, had lunch at Santa Barbara Airport, and then flew back down. And we got to fly over some mountains. I got to fly over some water. I got to talk to some very busy airspace out there. And it was like an aviation geeky dream. So to be able to have a client who is aviation based and in Southern California, in a city, basically the city I grew up in, Van Nuys, North Hollywood area, would have been an absolute dream. And one thing led to another, and I ended up not getting the work. And That was depressing for like the first hour or two after it happened. It really, really was. I was so I, there are times where I would have, when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh man, it would be great if I got this business, and I might be willing to sacrifice a couple of other businesses in different niches if I could get this one. And it didn't happen. Plain and simple, didn't happen. Didn't cry about it, but man, I sat at this very desk and beat myself up for not doing what I could have done better to close that lead. So that was something that really didn't go that way. Now on the flip side, the good things that happened this week, specifically on Sunday, a couple things, and then we're going to get in the content. I promise. I promise. I promise. Um, Due to the state of the United States, without getting into politics, um, you know, things are getting more challenging. Let's just put it that way. Things are getting more challenging, and so I decided, hey JP, okay, cool. Have a good day, man. Have a good day. Um, oh, look what Rich said. Let's get Rich on the screen here. Here we go. Something good. Getting up every day with the opportunity to create something good or great. Exactly. Your good thing, Rich, is the fact that you are alive, that you got up and you can do good work. You got up today, you got up yesterday, you got up the day before, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm very thankful. I really am, Rich. Very thankful that you got up. And yes, it doesn't have to be a big, giant, magical thing. You don't have to win a lottery. Sometimes you just have to make sure you wake up and jump back in the fight, jump back in the game, if you will. So, really quick, getting back to the non-political discussion. I actually participated in a political event. Um, and, if you are not of the same party of which I'm registered, don't hate on me for that. Um, but because if you know anything about me, I'm a very much a centrist. Okay, I just really don't care about parties. I'm very much a centrist. I just want clean water, cheap food, cheap gas, and a roof over my head. Okay, I really don't care how or which party gives it to me. I just want a party that's of good people doing good things for other good people. And so I actually got to drive up to Tulsa, Oklahoma to attend the Oklahoma Democratic Convention, the Democratic Party convention. And it's so basically you're taking a guy who's not really into the whole political thing. I'm not part of that game. I don't like that game. And you embedded me in a sea of people that is their game and that is their life. And so I was very much a fish out of water there. I didn't have a fancy red, white, and blue hat on. Wasn't displaying my proud American flag tattoo on my arm. I didn't have a fancy license plate. I was just a guy out of water. And sometimes you attend events like that where the people at the event are just the super geeks of the event, right? You have some people who like politics, some people who love politics, and you have like the super geeks way deep in that world. So it was interesting sitting there, and as a result, my wife connected with somebody before we got to the event, and once people found out I was going, I was actually given a proxy. So I was giving some voting power at the event. There were, I think, 300 or 400. I think there were 400 people at the event that were voting for a new chair of the Oklahoma Democratic Party, which they do I don't know, every 2 years, I think. And so I was going to be part of that voting process, but it involved me sitting through a lot of parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rules of Orders. And so if you're the kind of person that loves that stuff, if you're the kind of person that loves to make motions or second in or kick off discussions or say, this group gets 3 minutes for their side, this group gets 3 minutes, and this group gets 1 minute to counter. If you love that stuff and you love being the person with the stopwatch, then you would have loved this event. That's what most of the day was. However, everybody was there, really there to vote in a new chair, which didn't happen, I think, until very much later in the day, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But it was interesting. It was educational. Okay, and yes, I'm not a Democrat. I am a somebody who has the label Democrat in the state of Oklahoma. And the reason I like to differentiate those is because politics is not my entire personality. Okay. When someone says I am a Democrat or I am a Republican, to me that sounds like that's your entire personality. No, it's not my entire personality. And if you know anything about me, you know I'm very much a centrist. And if you haven't heard, you know how I pick my political party? I can remember exactly the place where I was getting my first driver's license in the state of Oklahoma. I flipped a coin. That's how I became registered as a Democrat. I flipped a coin because I didn't know what each one is. And even at that time, which was, I think was like my mid 20s, I knew that basically it almost really doesn't matter because it doesn't, you don't have to always vote with that group. You don't have to have the same beliefs for that group. It's just a label in a database someplace that somebody who is a super geek for that group wants to know about. Okay. So I literally flipped a coin, I shit you not, and I'm not even sure I've changed my party since then. I told someone in front of me, "Hey, what do you? If I'm heads, if it comes up heads, what do you think I should be?" And they probably said Democrat. I said, "Ooh, flip heads, got it. I guess I'm going to be a registered Democrat now." Put that in, and but again, I'm very much open to listening to things from different sides. And my goal also is in the next year, whenever I can find one, I'm going to attend the Republican equivalent here in Oklahoma, or whichever state I happen to live in. It's probably going to be Oklahoma. So I really want to attend both sides, just to see how the other half lives, as they call it. So that was one thing that was challenging, as I lost the aviation related lead. But the good thing is I dipped my toe. That's what I said, as I dipped my toe in politics. Am I going to go back another time? The odds are highly unlikely. It depends on what my involvement would be. I don't want to become a super geek for any political party. Okay, so given I I'm leaning towards no. Just not going back because I did it once. I have the experience. If I get invited to go back sometime for any particular reason to either help out or to do a proxy vote again, which I was very proud to do, participating in the process is very important. Then yeah, I would go back for my proxy vote. Um, I would probably wear my headphones most of the day because, again, 80% of the day was, working on bylaws and working on amendments to the charter for the Oklahoma Democratic Party. I was 80% of it, which is kind of funny because 20% of the people there are really there for that 80%. And 80% of the people there are really for that 20% of the meeting where we vote in the new chair of the party and the new vice chair and the secretary, the treasurer, all that stuff. Okay, so basically everyone would stay there all day long, like me, for 12 hours in that room to do something that basically took us, half an hour, 45 minutes. And after that, the meeting was basically over, and I drove back down from Tulsa to Oklahoma City. So I'm very proud to say and very happy that I got to participate that much in the process. So let's get on. Let's get on to the topics I want to talk to you about today. So my list that I made up is, these are my life rules, and they are in no particular order, but they are life rules that I've learned to adopt that help me understand people better, that help people understand me better, and that just make it so as I'm driving in my car and somebody cuts me off, or if I'm at a coffee shop and someone's having a bad day, or if I happen to see someone just sitting down crying, and some people may think that's kind of weird, but you just don't know when people are, what kind of place people are in sometimes. So, the list I'm coming up with are just some of the guiding rules, guiding principles that I've learned that I need to pay closer attention to because they help me understand people better. They help me get along with people better. They help me have more love and less hate in my heart, and more tolerance for what people are going through. So here they are, in no random order. Um, every single day I wake up, I try to lift up somebody. Okay, this would be the first one right here. That is my goal every single day. That's why I do these lives. That's why I create content. That's why I use my public speaking voice. That's why I help kids out whenever I can. Is I want to help one person. I want to make a difference to one person a day. Now, if I accidentally make a difference to 100 people or 1,000 people, bonus for me. One person. Can I make one person smile? Can I help out one person? Can I make one person's life easier? If I can do that every single day, and if you can do that every single day, then that very much makes waking up, getting up, and showering that day worth it. Okay? Don't try to, my goal is not, to, again, to try to affect change on a massive amount of people. My goal is to help one person do better in their personal life, do better in their fitness, do better in their business life, help them start a business, help them provide for their family. If I can lift up one person every single day, then I feel that my time on this planet, my most recent 24 hours, has been very, very well spent. Okay? Another rule I have to remember is that I do not know everything. Okay, you know what I know? Ever since I was, ever since I've been born, basically, I've been learning. And in my, it doesn't really matter the exact number, but my 5-ish decades, 6-ish decades, somewhere in between there, every single year, if you are smart and you want to grow, every single year you will learn and you will remember that you know a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction, and that number may still be high, of human knowledge. Okay? And this is important when you get into debates and discussions and you and somebody are disagreeing on something and you've got your perspective and you're digging in your heels and I know I'm right and I know I'm right, and then somebody else has the same thing and the two of you are butting heads. You don't know what that person knows, okay? And you don't know the vast majority of what's going on in the world. I promise you, you can be an avid news consumer. You have no idea what's going on in the world. You have no idea what somebody in Fiji is experiencing right now. I have no idea what my fellow business owners around me or my neighbors are experiencing right now. When I see them out on the front porch doing something with their kids or if they're mowing their lawn, I have no idea if they just had a fight with their spouse. Did they just, lose their job? And the reason this is important is because when you start talking to people, sometimes you'll notice that if you're in a good mood or if you're in a bad mood, either one, you'll start communicating with people around you and you'll notice they don't have your mood. Okay. Maybe I'm having a very bad day and I go out to see my neighbor, and my neighbor's in a great mood, and I don't know why. Remember that. You don't know. Wait, I'm sorry. I would, you know what? I kind of mixed points here. Um, my whole point with the other one is that I don't know everything, is that when you're heading into business engagements and discussions, just keep that in mind, is that oftentimes you're going to be discussing things with people that are more knowledgeable and more intelligent than you. I'm sorry. I kind of was mixing all my points here. Um, the other one, and this is one that came to mind recently with the aviation thing I was talking about early in here, is that um, when I fail at something, and by fail, let's just say I'm trying to do something and I don't get the result that I want, and there are other people involved in the effort, if you will. Okay, that's the best way I can do this. And if things don't go my way, I've learned for my fellow man and for me to take responsibility for all of those failures, if you will, even if my actions didn't cause the failure. Okay. And I'll give you a really good example. There are times where I'm trying to close business leads or I'm trying to complete projects and they don't always go the way I want. Okay. That just happens. When the effort is completed or has been completed or done or whatever it is, and I didn't get the result I wanted, I'll go back and I'll do some, analysis, a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. I'll go back and we'll do a post game, kind of a post game review, and I'll look and see what could I have done differently. Now, the fact that I didn't achieve my goal may not be my quote unquote fault. Okay. Um, Captain Jean Luc Picard once said, "You can be absolutely perfect at every single aspect of something and still fail." I mean, why wouldn't you believe a TV starship captain in a fantasy world, right? But that statement is true. You can be absolutely perfect in your skill. You can be absolutely perfect in your efforts and your execution and still fail. However, when that happens, and once you get over the grief or the being in the bad mood from failing, go back and do some post-game analysis and figure out what could you have done, even if you are a minor part of the effort. What could you have done to maybe slightly change the output or the outcome, if you will? Okay. You don't have to take responsibility for the whole thing, but I always find there's something I could have done. Maybe I could have worded an email slightly different, or I could have said something different on video, or I could have put something different in an email attachment, or I could have said something different to a neighbor. Okay. I think there's almost always something I've learned that I could have done differently that would have improved, if not guaranteed, would have improved the outcome to be more to my liking. Okay. So always do some post game analysis when things fail, even if you weren't responsible for the failure. because there's always something you could have done that could have possibly altered the outcome. So here's another one that I was mixing with one of my first two I was talking about. Ooh, really, Rich? You're gonna go Kobayashi Maru on me this early? Dude, don't get me started on Star Wars and Star Trek. I know what the Kobayashi Maru is, dude. I know what that test is. That's why I cheated and reprogrammed the computer, right? Um, um, Let me see. Oh, what was I talking? Oh, so um, when here's my next one. Okay, when I'm interacting, and make sure these aren't overlaying here. Okay, yeah. So um, here we go. I like Rich's. Let's get this on the screen. We'll get that on the screen shortly here, Rich. Um, I don't believe in the no-win scenario. James T. Kirk, James Tiberius Cook for sure, right? Um, named after his father or his grandfather. I can't remember, whatever it was. So here's another one. I remember because I took some notes here. I remember that I don't know your past, your pain, your joy, or your goals. As a result, fair, right, and wrong are almost always personal judgments. That was the point that I was trying to get to. Um, we like to think that we have moral and ethical absolutes. We like to think that doing something is right or wrong based on our rule set. We've grown up since kids building our rule set, okay? And every single day we look at things through that set of rules and we say, this is right, this is wrong. This is right, right, wrong, wrong, right, 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 wrong, 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 wrong. We do that all day long subconsciously, okay? However, remember that the person sitting next to you in a coffee shop has had a different life experience, okay? And their rules of what is right and wrong may not jive with your rules. And that's perfectly okay. Just remember that and give them some grace. If you're ever in a discussion with a person and they say, well, I think it's okay to yada, 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 or I did this on a regular basis and it's perfectly fine. But, it's not inside your rules, right? It's not inside your magic rule set, okay? And you want to chastise that person, you want to be critical of that person. However, you haven't experienced what that person went through. You don't know what they experienced as a childhood, as a child, what trauma they went through, what experiences they had. And I'll give you a very good example. Here I am in, oh goodness gracious, I liked it so much, Rich, I somehow overlaid it twice. There we go, let's fix that. Um, Here I am in the Midwest, Oklahoma, okay? I don't see many battles, many wars here, okay? I'm very well insulated. Every now and then I'll go downtown and I might see two drunk people fighting, but that's the closest I come to violence in my life, okay? If I was to go to the Starbucks 2 or 3 miles away and I was to sit next to somebody who has lived in, let's say, a Middle Eastern country, which has been in some kind of war situation or some kind of famine situation or some kind of very bad situation since the day that person was born, my rules and my morals and ethics might be 100% different from what that person's rule is. Okay, we can sit here all. Here's an example. We can sit here all we want. And claim it's right or wrong to do certain things. But I know, for example, in battles and in wartime, the rules are out the gate. When you're going for your survival, the rules you have when you're sitting in a nice, comfy Starbucks in the Midwest are different than the rules you have when you're in a place that's has shells falling on you. And this is not me taking a position on anything going on right now. Okay, in a battle, if when two countries are in a battle, a plague on both their houses. Okay, there's just that's my general attitude. But as I go through the day, I try to remember and give some grace to the fact that just people have different experiences in the world, and my I should not force my rules on somebody else. If I'm talking with someone and they say, "Well, I've experienced this, and this is why I have my beliefs," and yada yada yada, I try to shut up and listen. Shutting up is going to be another rule shortly. I try to shut up and listen based and give them grace in their rules and understand their rules from their perspective, okay? Because we've experienced two different lives. When you walk out of your house or your office today, remember that every single person on this planet has had a different path. We were born differently. We were raised differently. We had different friends. We had different parents. We had different friends and enemies when we were younger. And all of that is what shaped us to where we are right now. I can't remember my age. I think I'm 57. Okay. I've had 57 years, or you know what? Let's do the math. Where's the Mac? Where's your calculator? Okay. So I can, where's the freaking calculator? Where'd it go? There's a calculator someplace in my freaking 20 screens that are open. There's a calculator. Oh well, can't find it. Anyways, but multiply 57 times the number of days I've been alive, and then multiply that times the number of hours. And whatever number of thousands of hours that is, and if you're the same age as me, or older than me, or younger than me, you have every single minute of every single hour, you've been on a completely different path. You've interacted with different people. Your parents raised you differently. Your parents said things differently to you when you were 10 versus what mine said to me when I was 10, okay? And so we have to be very careful about judging people too hard who have a completely different life experience than we do, okay? And when you do that, you and that person will get along much, much better. Okay, let me see what else here. What other rules help me get through life? Oh, um, I've learned that I have more peace in my life and more enjoyment when I raise my standards and when I raise the standards of those around me. Okay, and for those of you tuning in the middle, these are basically my rules to help us get along better. I raise my standards of myself. Is what my notes here. I keep raising my standards of myself and of those I choose to be around. I'm not sure that's worded properly. Sorry for you English, for you grammar Nazis. That doesn't, as I say that out loud in my own notes, that doesn't sound right. But I keep raising my standards of myself and of those I choose to be around. I always want to be in rooms where I am not this. Oh, goodness gracious, Charles Higgins, you did the math? Of course. Everyone, my friend, Charles Higgins. So almost 500,000 hours. I've had almost 500,000 hours on this planet. And my 500,000 hours, I'm going to assume, Charles, you're much younger than I am. My 500,000 hours have been completely different than Charles's 500,000 hours. We had different parents. We were raised differently. And so if I ever sit down with Charles and we're having a good, coffee discussion or a steak discussion, or don't have steak and coffee in the same meal, please. Just do one or the other. And Charles says something that, I'm like, whoa, dude, how in the world can you believe that? I got to remember that Charles went through a different life. Thank you, Charles, for doing the math, right? And I have to give Charles some grace. And the opposite is true. If we're sitting down to have a breakfast or something, and I say something that blows Charles' mind, it's like, dude, how can you possibly believe that? Hopefully, Charles will be able to give me some grace and realize that Patrick's seen some shit. Charles has seen some shit. We haven't seen the same shit, but our shit has shaped our views and our moral rule set and our ethical rule set. And so just give people some grace when you're talking about that. Um, oh, and then I was getting back to where I was going. I keep raising my standards of myself and of those I choose to be around. That helps me get along better with people because it also helps me filter and make sure I'm in the right communities with the right people. And again, shout out to my buddy Charles. He and I communicate a lot more than we used to, but I've learned I want to be around people like Charles. I want to be around the people that are where I want to go and where I want to be, and I want to use them as a good example. And part of the way I do that is I raise my standards, okay? Let's say in my world of digital marketing, there are a ton of communities out there, and there's kind of the beginner intro communities and the affiliate communities and things like that. And then in the world of marketing, there are the communities of the people that are doing $50,000 a month, $100,000 a month in MRR. I want to raise my standards so I can hang out with those people more. I want to learn what they did to get there so I can be there. And so I just keep raising my standards, and I don't want to ignore, let's say, the people in the beginning of their journey, but the beginning and the middle of a journey, for example, that's not where I am anymore in just about any part of my life. I'm not a beginning gym rat anymore, okay? I have been lifting weights since I touched my first weight in the basement of Offutt Air Force Base probably in the end of 86, if not the beginning of 87. And at that point forward, I have been a member of a gym or CrossFit or something. And even to now, tonight's Wednesday night, I've been working on back stuff. I'll be at the gym again tonight, okay? But at the gym, I'm focusing and I'm keeping community with people that are achieving the physical goals that I want to be around, okay? And same with business. I want to associate with the Charles Hagans of the world and the oh goodness gracious, I already forgot his name. Les Browns of the world when it comes to business, and the Ali Bloyds of the world, okay, and the Billy Jeans of the world. These are the rooms I want to be in, okay. I keep raising the standards of myself and those I choose around. People that focus on politics are often more interested in the game than the goal. I don't like the game. There we go. Okay, that helps me get along with people, because whenever I get into discussions in person or discussions online, um, I like to remember that I don't like that game, and so I focus more on the actual issues than the game. And if I am ever in a group of people, like I was this weekend to a point, if I'm ever in a group of people that are more interested in the game than the meat or the actual topics, then I've learned those are not my people. Okay. Um, and I don't know why I put that down at my notes, but that's again just my way of filtering and being around the right community here. My next one is there is a lot of value in shutting up, and that one I couldn't put any more plainly. Okay. This was told to me. I'm not quite sure who I learned this from. For a while, when I was cutting my teeth in the IT world, I worked at a company called Hertz, which was then outsourced to IBM. And there are two people, I've met a lot of really brilliant people, but there are two people that I remember there. And it came from one of them. And I'm not quite sure which one. It was either Yosef Kanfar, who was a brilliant artist, still here in Oklahoma City, or another friend of mine named Derry Bergstresser, okay? And they said that you have two eyes, two ears, and one mouth, and you should use them in that proportion. Put another way, we should be observing and listening more than we should be talking. Or, if you want the brief, succinct Patrick way, there is value in shutting up. Okay? There's value in shutting up even when you're in discussions where you know people are wrong. And that one I learned from I believe it's Dale Carnegie wrote the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is a book that gets a bad rap because of the title. And I was actually looking for it this morning in my bookcase back there, and I have a copy of it. I don't know where it is. But if you've never read it, How to Win Friends and Influence People was written back in the 60s or 70s by a gentleman, I believe, named Dale Carnegie. And it has a lot of interesting rules in there. But I remember one story in that book was the author. The author and his friend were in some kind of discussion with a third party, and the third party said something that the author and the person knew were wrong, and it was something factual. It was like, um, uh, oh, thank you, Charles. I'm glad you like that book. Yeah, I can't remember what the exact thing was, but when the author and his friend separated from the person, the friend asked the author, "It's like you knew that thing was wrong. Why didn't you correct them?" And the friend said there is no value in embarrassing or calling out somebody else's mistake in that situation, okay? There are times when you know that people are 100% wrong, especially in our online world. Don't get me started on the number of things I've seen wrong on Facebook and Reddit and in the media. We see them all every day, okay? We're smart people. There are times where I see things that are wrong, not always, because Patrick doesn't know how to shut up sometimes, but that I know are 100% factually wrong. It's not always in my best interest to open up my mouth and point out someone's flaws or someone is wrong. Okay. Put another way. Here's another way. I didn't write this one down. It's as I was talking about this. Another way to put this, and you guys have all heard this one. Tis something like, "Tis better to be quiet and have people think you are stupid than to open up your mouth and remove all doubt." I'll say it again. Sometimes it's better to be quiet and have people think you are a fool than to open up your mouth and remove all doubt. Okay? I got to do that more often, okay? Now, I want you to, for those of you that know me personally and that are listening to me talk about these topics, okay? These are things that I can and do slip up on. Okay, if you saw a thing I posted on Facebook earlier today, these these are the rules I have to remember. It doesn't mean I follow them 100% of the time. Emotions get involved, and sometimes I will get into some heated discussions online, and then I'll take a deep breath and remember that I don't have to be the dog in every fight. Okay, one more time for those in the back. Sometimes it's better to be quiet and have people think you're a fool than open up open up your mouth and remove all doubt of being a fool. Please, please just remember that. There is value in shutting up. My next point in my notes here, there's also value in being selfish. Okay? And this is one that I struggled with for a while because we are taught as kids to not be selfish. From the moment we were a kid and we had some toys and we were playing with, and our parents took us and associated with other kids, we were always taught share, 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 share. Don't be selfish. You got some ice cream, you got some candy, share, 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 share. Don't be selfish. Remember going out on a Halloween and coming back with giant bags of candy and you all dump it out together and you just want to keep yours to yourself? Or maybe this was just the Patrick who was a kid asshole. You want to keep all that candy to yourself. And your parents say, no, 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 let's dump it out in a big pile. Let's all share it. I'm like, no, I don't want to share. It's my candy. I got these sweet tarts. I got these Laffy Taffies. I did the work around my neighborhood. I got these. These are mine. I don't want to share. Okay. As you get older with an adult and you're talking about dealing with different things, especially things like your time, there is plenty of value in being selfish. I got a DM on Reddit yesterday or today where somebody wanted some of my time and something else from me, and I politely said no, don't have the time. This is very important as you as you start and grow your business. Okay, you need to start being more selfish with your time. Not selfish in a mean way, but remembering things like you have a finite amount of time in a day or a finite amount of time in your life. And it's okay to be selfish with it, okay? And when people start dogging you for, why can't you help me out? You know, you're rich. Why can't you help me out? You've got money, you've got time. Why can't you do this for me? It's like, are you really trying to shame me into helping you? Because that's not going to help either one of us, okay? But be selfish with your time. Give yourself some grace when you're responding to someone also. It's very nice to say to someone, and obviously I'm focusing on time because this has a lot to do with time management, but it's perfectly okay when somebody wants something from you and because they may see you're doing nothing. Like let's say, um, I'll use the coffee shop example again, okay? You're sitting down, you've got your headphones on, you're working, and somebody walks up to you and they're like, "Hey, can I pick your brain?" It's perfectly okay to say, "You know what? Not really. I get paid for people to pick my brain. I'm also working on a project right now, so as much as I'd love to help you, I really can't. Here are some possible resources you can use to get the help that you need." And this applies to gym stuff. This can apply to business stuff. This can apply to any number of things. I'm just using a generic example here, okay? Sometimes you'll get people who will be rude to you when you say you can't give them time. They'll say you're being selfish. You see this a lot when people have like a lot of money. It's like, "Oh, brother, can you spare $50 or can you spare $100? Because I know you just got $10,000. Can you spare $100 and help me out?" I'm like, you know what? No. Oftentimes, no. Number one, I give to charity on a regular basis. Number two, oftentimes when I get a good chunk of money, I've already pre spent that money in my head for other things, for things like tools, for payroll, for marketing, things like that. So just because I have a big chunk of money doesn't mean I have a big chunk of money to give away. And again, an example, we're just talking about the money example. So my summary for that topic is it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to be selfish with your money. It's okay to be selfish with your time. It's okay to be selfish with your knowledge. Okay? Not mean, not evil, but being selfish and using things that you only have a finite amount of and keeping them to yourself or allocating them to, for basically pre planning your resources. Again, money, time, knowledge, whatever it is. It's okay to be a little bit selfish. Just don't be mean about it. And the last one here on my list, so all of us can get back to work, And by the way, I've had various amounts of people watching, and I very much appreciate you guys. And it looks like my little audio meter isn't up, but I'm sure my audio is coming through. And if it wasn't, you guys would be screaming in the comments. So thank you very much. I'm keeping an eye on the comments here. This is one of the ones that basically reminded me that I have to attend that Billy Cox event. And for those of you that didn't miss the beginning of the stream, I'm going down to Dallas at the end of the month to attend a training conference on Friday and Saturday. Actually, I'm just kind of curious myself. I'll pull up my calendar here and see when that was. Man, I'm one of those super. Okay, so here we go. The 25th. Oh, excuse me. The evening of the morning of the 25th, I'm driving down to Dallas, attending an event with my friend Thomas Keenan, Les Brown, and Billy Cox. I'll be down there half of Friday, all of Saturday for my self improvement, and that was a one of the reasons I think I remembered to basically attend that is the fact this one right here. Always find people smarter than you. Charles, why do I think I ask you questions, Mr. Higgins? Always find people smarter than you. Always be trying to get into the rooms where you are not the smartest person. We've all heard the adage of if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And in my experience, that very much is true. Okay, I don't mind being smart. I've got plenty of tech skills, plenty of marketing skills. I'm crazy smart on certain topics. Okay, but you know what? Out of all the topics that I need to be good at, the ones I'm smart at, they're not um they're another way to put this is there are topics I need to be much smarter at. Is that my participle dangling? Yeah, I think that's my dangling participle right there. And I need to be in those rooms, which this is the thing that reminded me when my buddy Thomas invited me to the event coming up in Dallas. This is the thing that reminded me, Patrick, don't turn that down. Someone is inviting you to an event of really smart people, because I looked at the slate of speakers and it was like Billy Cox and Les Brown and Thomas Keenan and 4 or 5 other speakers that are going to be down here in this day and a half event. I know that if I go down to that event, I'm going to have no choice but to be around smarter people, and I'm going to learn something. And I'm going to be on my knees thanking my friend Thomas Keenan for inviting me. Thomas Keenan from Step It Up Academy, if you're ever interested. He's a brilliant, brilliant friend, and he and I have such a similar mindset. And it's actually kind of funny. We actually have very similar branding. We're all very much into the red, whites, and blacks. It's a very common brand set right there. But yeah, that's my goal for going down to this Dallas event, is to be in the room. For you Hamilton fans, it could be in the room where it happens, maybe. But my goal to go down to this event is to be in a room with people that are much, much smarter than me and who have life experience and business experience that I couldn't attain if I lived to be 1,000 years. Okay. So as you are going out and about in life today, if you haven't had a chance, by the way, if you're tuning in late, please feel free to go back and watch this video. I think live videos have an expiration date on Facebook of like a month now, if I'm right. But this is going to be 100% be over on my YouTube channel, and will 100% be. I'll be cutting this into some short snippets also, okay? And, blatant plug for myself, please make sure you go over on YouTube and subscribe and turn on notifications. That's how you can help me. You can't pay me, but that's how you can help. Well, you can pay me. PayPal me $1,000. I'd be okay with that. But that's how you can help me talk more about these topics and make this worthwhile for you and for everybody else. So just go over on YouTube and subscribe. That's social currency, and I would really, really appreciate that. But you this morning have chosen to spend time with me listening to this, whether it's 30 seconds or whether it's the entire, how long have we been going here? Whether it's the entire 51 minutes and 10 seconds. You have chosen to be in a place probably where I know some things you don't know, and some of the people in the comments may know some things you don't know. Okay? Again, try to always get into a room where you are not the smartest person in the room. And as a quick recap, and please make sure in the comments you comment with which one of these was one that you hadn't thought about recently. Okay? So the topic of this was the rules I live by that help us get along better. My goal every single day is to lift up at least one person. I don't know everything. I know a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of human knowledge. When I fail at something, I try to take responsibility for my part in that failure, even if it was a very minor part, and figure out what I can do better. Um, so I'm always, taking a little bit of responsibility. I remember that I don't know your pain, your goals, your joy, your goals. As a result, the determination of what is fair, right, and wrong is not is that's 100% dependent on each individual person. Okay. The next one was I keep raising my standards of myself and of those I choose to be around. People that focus more on politics are often more interested in the game than the goal. I don't like the game. There is a lot of value in shutting up. You were given two eyes, two ears, and one mouth. Use them proportionally. Goodness gracious! And Patrick just clicked on something that really you click on one thing. There we go. You click on one thing on your iPad, and all of a sudden the windows and everything's changed. So let's get back down to my notes here. Yeah, there's a lot of value in shutting up. There is value in being selfish. Okay, and always find people smarter than you. Always be trying to get into rooms where you are not the smartest person in the room. Okay? Let me know in the comments. And by the way, if you're watching this as a recording, please feel free to comment on which one you thought was going to help you most today, and I will reply accordingly. I love people that comments and like and share my stuff because it just helps me know that people are listening. You know what? Have a great day. Give yourself some grace. Do something to put a smile on your face, and do something to put a smile on someone else's face. Okay? Until our next live, bottoms up, I've got, looks like maybe a third of a cup of coffee left. And for you diehard coffee fans, coffee is far, far from black. This coffee is, when I look at the coffee, I swear the coffee might be a little bit lighter than even my skin when I compare it side by side. And as always, I love my coffee and motivation cups. I can't remember who this one is, if my daughter gave me this one, or if my good friend Chris Kowalik, who runs profeds.com, gave me this one. But I've got a couple of these coffee and motivation mugs here. Go for a like, subscribe on YouTube, and if I can ever help you out in business or at a personal situation, feel free to text me at the number that's on the screen, 405-217-4752, or DM me on social media. It's not hard to find me. I'm not a stranger on social media. Until my next live, have a great, great day, and I will see you. I don't know. Depends on who you are, where I'll see you. Might see you in Dallas, might see you in Texas someplace, might see you across the street. But until then, have a great, great day.